Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for jumping on today and giving us some of your very valuable time. I'm Leanne Taylor. I'm Sales Executive at Murdoch Webster Technology Group. To my right, we have Chris Mearns, who's our founder and CTO, and the very famous Mr. Michael Burt. We also have on the call today Rebecca Glasgow-Barnes and Badbury, and they're from a company called W3, which we're doing some really cool stuff with in the RPA space. So today, while Badbury is going to be taking us through what RPA is, what you should be thinking of using it for within your business, just pop any questions in the chat and I'll be able to announce those as we go through. There we go. Let Rowan in. Hi, Rowan.
Hey.
Thanks for joining. That's okay. Go Cats. So we'll kick off with Badbury, mate. Over to you, madam.
Yeah. Hey, hello. Thank you again. I know it's very busy time for everybody, but thank you again for joining. So basically, how I'll start today is run you guys through what RPA is. Although it's a buzzword that's been there for a while, I'll just run you through what it is, and how and what we've done with it, how we've put a twist to what RPA is and how people understand what it is and what we've done with it. RPA could be considered as a digital worker, which is there available for you 24/7, working on remote, mundane tasks, and it can do it error-free. It can all the actions that are done by the robots are of course completely auditable. It kind of elevates all those burdens of your staff trying to do tasks which requires moving data from one system to the other, doing some bit of processing and whatnot. So which could make it highly inefficient. Benefits primarily include higher employee morale, of course, wherein the staff, when they come and show up to work, they know they're not going to be spending 8 hours or majority of their time working on something which is absolutely not exciting them enough. So they feel more engaged. It improves
data entry is really exciting. Come on, man.
So it certainly increases the customer experience. With one of the customers that we did, and then this is just one example of the thousands that are there. The service time for a transaction reduced from 72 hours to under 30 minutes. So that's a massive impact on customer experience. It can also enable your business looking at newer possibilities. For again, one of the customers, what they did was, because RPA was there, they could look at additional options or additional offerings that they could provide to their customers online. And all they had to do was probably build a web form where the customer enters certain fields or requests for certain services, and robot in the background, it goes ahead and then enters all that information or does the backend job. So you didn't really have to have a person there sitting behind doing whatever, and you were enabling those customers to access more services. This especially happened during COVID, where all the centers and all the offices were locked down. So it allowed the customers to continuously interact with the organization.
So what we've found working with W3 Digital at Murdoch Webster is, given that there's quite a skill shortage at the moment and it's really hard to retain staff, this is not necessarily an IT issue, it's actually a business issue, and it's about anything that any of your staff do, think reception or accounts payable, tax time, BAS, all that sort of stuff, anything that's a repeatable human task, the robot can do. So we're having some great conversations with customers around automating accounts payable, and I'm sure Badbury will touch on that later. But just while Badbury's sort of talking through, maybe just jot down some of the tasks that are in your businesses that are repeatable and mundane, that this might be a really good use case for, and we'll touch on that a bit later as well. Thanks, Badbury.
So, while you're jotting it down, something that I tell my customers is jot down the tasks that your employees don't like doing.
Yeah.
Those could be very, very high possibilities of.
No, I mean, have I got a job for you, Badri?
Regarding operational benefits, it's of course increased productivity. A robot can work at least 60 to 70% faster than a human, no matter how fast the human is, with of course consistency and accuracy. It could work 24/7, doesn't fall sick. So your business is running even when, let's say, people fall sick due to whatever or are not available. Technical benefits is of course it's very low barrier. It sits separately. It's just like a human. It's like you onboarding another person. For the lack of a better term, consider onboarding a grad, wherein as long as you have documented processes, you just tell grad what to do and the grad does it for you. But this is of course highly effective and much more faster than a person. And you only build it once, right? And that's how it is non-intrusive. You really don't need to build any kind of connectivity between systems, so it can emulate what a human would do. That being said, of course, the technology is certainly improving, and it can do API calls, wherein system-to-system calls could be done, and so it can emulate that as well.
And that's what I find really interesting, Badri, when you're entering customers' data or your end clients or whatever your business is, you're entering it into one system, and often it needs to go into 2 or 3 or 4 other systems within the business as well. So even just that efficiency there of entering something once and having it flow through, to HR or to accounts or IT for Active Directory, for instance, and all that sort of stuff. It's an interesting, use case for that.
Certainly, employee onboarding is one of the very, very common use cases which I would touch upon on. So the moment you onboard an employee, all it needs is certain checks from HR based on certain data, and then the bot goes in and finishes of whatever work. And it doesn't have to be a one-way communication. It could be a two-way communication between the bot and the staff as well, wherein the bot does certain things and presents an output to a person, and then the person, based on the decision what they want to do, then the bot does the remaining bits. Regarding financial benefits, it's of course inexpensive compared to a person, considering you only pay for the bot licensing once, and it can do multiple tasks at the same time. It's certainly low risk, and then we'll touch upon that when we come and tell you about our offering. But in a traditional sense, RPA is low risk because if you don't want it, or if the process only needs to be run and you're not happy with it, you just turn it off and it falls back on whatever the old process was. So you're really not risking your business, so to speak, there. And of course, it generates a faster return of investment. Moving on, automation is certainly not very new. People have always automated whatever mundane tasks they could think of. It always started with Excel macros or desktop automation, wherein people either used to create batch files or when people still used to work on Microsoft DOS, they used to create batch files to run certain processes. But then when Excel and all that came, of course, they started building macros, VB scripts and whatnot. But that still required a person to do something, activate or generate a task for or double click something for it to work on. Then, of course, came RPA 2.0, wherein the bot could initiate the task by itself and then work on it and then present the results. It would have logs and whatnot. So that's what we call it as unassisted automation.
Badri, Michael's got a question for you.
Badri, what years are we talking? Is RPA 1 like 2018 and we're now up to 2022? Or when did this sort of technology start to become efficient, etc.?
So RPA is certainly not very new. It has been there for almost 10, 14 years. But it all started with basic kind of automation, and through the years, things have certainly improved. It really picked up in 2016, wherein it became much more user friendly. The developmental interface or the development interface became much more user friendly. It became low code, no code, wherein people could just drag and drop and automate a workflow or simulate a workflow. But again, it has grown leaps and bounds from there. Now you see so many automation vendors which are there in the market. Everybody has their own little niche. And there's also, as the technology is improving now, we are of course we have cloud-based automation solution which offer even bots there, which could be loaded somewhere else instead of sitting in your own environment. There's of course cognitive automation, which allows artificial intelligence, machine learning, which could again try and decipher based on certain logics and give you certain results. OCRing is very, very common these days when it comes to that. The power of RPA is certainly the breadth of use cases that you could use it on, versus buying point solutions and then hoping that it would somehow integrate with your other systems. Does that answer your question? Right. All right, cool. So again, coming to cognitive, we can readily integrate with Python scripts and whatnot. Whatever Python libraries are available these days, the solutions could easily integrate with those and like use the best of both worlds and then give the customers business outcomes as quickly as possible. Coming down to common use cases, these are again very, very common, which you can see across the industry. But of course, every customer would have their own little piece of relatable or different processes that they could use. Just quick checking a question that's there. Precisely, Shane, the mainframes have had this. Everybody has tried to automate some part of it. But again, what you're talking about is one system, right? But what RPA does is when there are multiple applications that are there, and then when you need to talk to one system to the other, when you have to move data from one system to the other, that's where RPA would really fall into place. Does that answer your question, Shane? ETL is again one of the common things that RPA could potentially be used for data transformation. It can work extensively in your data lifecycle as well, coming from data ingestion to data transformation, coming to it can do APIs, of course, and it can kind of collate all the data from different systems, push it to Power BI if you want to help you generate those business insights versus a person doing it. All right. So these are again very, very common use cases that you can find across industries. Talk about data migration, data entry, generating mass emails. The question is that either customers end up doing it manually, or they might end up buying point solutions. But what this provides you is a platform wherein you can use it for n number of reasons. I'm not saying it's if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail to you, but it is one of the very, very, it needs to be evaluated on a case by case basis, whether it would provide you with the benefits that you perceive. And then you could move on. And that's where probably you could use somebody who's worked in that industry just to get some consultation and then work with that. Customer service is very, very common these days. It's been there for a while, of course, wherein you can resolve simple common issues. There are AI or ML enabled chatbots that are there, which do things upfront and then call in RPA to do the backend processing as well. You could do basic tasks using RPA there. Human resources, as I already touched on, you could do a lot there. Financial planning, doing bank reconciliation, P&Ls, refunds, whatnot. So again, these are quite common and across industries. You could continue doing that. Customer onboarding is again one of the very common things. One of the things that we've built is it's a bot that is pretty much readily available. If you have a data set, it could just integrate something into HubSpot, for example. All your leads that come into your system through your sales channels could easily be integrated into HubSpot. So there again, we'll use combination of multiple technologies and then just do an API call to HubSpot. Either you build that API and manage that API, or you just do it once and then it keeps on running. There is a common misconception that RPA couldn't help with IT systems, but of course, it could help with basic diagnostics, level 1 remediation based on certain alerts that come into your syslog servers. It can do access management, of course. Software installations could be done. And of late, what we're seeing is a higher uptake when it comes to application testing. So for some use cases, people are even replacing Selenium, which is a very, very common software that people use for application testing and build scripts and whatnot with RPA there. So as I said, again, the use cases could be infinite. It's again, whether it makes business sense for you, whether it's the right process or not, whether it would give you the intended benefits or not.
Badri, I think we'll just touch on one of the projects we're working on at the moment with the schools, so in the education space. And most of us who are on this call that have kids, that you have to fill out those 3 pieces of paper every time you enrol your kid into a school, and what's your profession and the Medicare number and Medibank and blah blah blah. You're basically handing over a lot of data there, and most times that's still on a piece of paper, right? So we're doing a trial with the school at the moment about automating the student onboarding into this particular school. And at the moment, Badri, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think it takes in December, January, while we're all on holidays, the poor reception staff, I think 3 people working full time, takes them about 3 weeks to onboard the year 7s or, preps or what have you into the school system. So we're working on a bot at the moment that can try and automate some of this, data that then just feeds straight into their LMS system. They'll have a fee system for accounting if it's a private school, etc. So that student data does need to be shared across multiple platforms within a school. It needs to go to the sports department so the kids can pick what sports they want to do. It goes to timetabling and all that sort of stuff. So it's really interesting when you start thinking about how the data gets into your system and then where it actually needs to go to support and enable the other departments within your business to actually be more effective as well. So that's a really good use case that I hope, I'm sure a lot of you can enjoy the benefits from once we've got it up and working. Hey, Badri?
Yes, definitely. Yes, Rebecca, you can use it for data validation, of course, checking everything and then processing based on certain results. Yeah, okay, I'll just move on. So again, why RPA, right? As Leanne mentioned in the start itself, there is, of course, that great resignation wave that's happening. People are leaving, and when they leave, they don't even leave. They don't leave as a person. What they leave with is all the process level information that they have in their minds, right? Because not all the processes are documented. So what RPA, of course, allows you to do is first, we've seen that benefit in multiple organizations, see what the process is, because everybody does it differently. So it helps you standardize a process. It would ensure that when and if you're audited, you are sure that you followed the right process as per the SOPs. And it helps you continue the business even when, let's say, there is a key person risk or whatever. So you could look at those options as well, just to help that person not to kind of fire the person, for the lack of a better word, but to ensure that you don't really have that key person risk as a business. Ensure that you are not they themselves have certain value to provide you, because they could be simply bored doing the same job again and again and again, just because they do it so well that nobody else could.
I think that's an interesting one, Badri, about just, allowing this staff to work on other exciting projects as well when you take a lot of that data entry away. I know we spoke to another education school with the sports teacher, and to do, the cross country or the school sports day, it takes him about 8 hours of data entry into a spreadsheet to allocate the teams and things like that. So, that's something we can actually get down to, 3 hours, or less than probably. So.
And majority of the teams or the companies are using these RPA, of course, not to get cost out specifically, but about to get that additional flexibility, additional flex in their business hours. Imagine if your sales guys automate a lot of their tasks, that is the amount of hours that they could spend in front of their customers. If the finance team automates that reconciliation and whatnot, the more time they can spend on either improving processes, they can spend on either generating new or auditing a different team or whatnot, right? It could be used in multiple different ways. It certainly helps with employee retention, wherein employees have a lot of options these days. It would help you keep them engaged. It helps you, of course, with business efficiency and getting that cost out. And when some new opportunity comes, you need to be certain that your business is ready to be accurate and responsive to handle that challenge. So it gives you that additional flex, so to speak, to work through this.
And I think just interesting with the people, obviously everyone on the call today are clients and friends of Murdoch Webster, and generally we're all in an IT team, right? We work in IT, so most of you on the call are probably IT related. So it's interesting to go and have a chat with your accounts team or your receptionist, and those guys, and actually go, tell me about your tasks and what's repeatable, because I'm pretty sure most of us don't actually really know how payroll gets done or BAS gets done or what have you. It just lands in your account each month, right? But there's a significant process for that team to go through to make that happen. So, it'll be interesting after this call this week if you go and have a chat to some of your other departments, and you'll probably be fascinated to see how much time they're wasting on data entry and, invoicing and things like that.
Yeah. Majority of the teams that we spoke to, they're always overworked, and they don't have time to look at, let's say, process improvements and things like that. So this would help you get that additional benefit as well. So I'll quickly show a demo. Enough talk. So now you can actually see the bot in action. So this process is, again, accounts payable, right? You've received an invoice. The bot needs to pick up that information that's in that invoice, enter it into a billing system for now. Whereas the one which we've actually developed, it involves a human check in the middle, wherein the human checks it, and then based on that, once they approve it, it goes ahead and enters it into the system. So this is the invoice that's come. And now this is the bot that we're trying to run. This is, again, it gives you the option of either doing a manual run or a person executing a bot, or what we could do is even sending the bot a command from something we called as the orchestrator or the mothership, which has the hearts and brains of the overall automation program. It sends it a command to run the bot. So this one we're running it manually, but it could be done remotely as well, and that's how it could work 24/7, essentially. Sorry. So imagine a person having multiple bots, right? Depending on whatever task they want to execute, they just choose that if you want it done, because that's how a lot of call centers are doing their jobs now. So this is again, now the bot has already read it, it has extracted it. And now it's just entering the information there. So overall process end to end, as you can see in the timer, is about 33 seconds, 34 seconds, let's say, for one invoice. So
invoices, when you've got 700 invoices hitting your accounts payable each month, that's a lot of time, right?
So a lot of things that we have done with additional customers is that the bot runs overnight. It provides the person the information as soon as they come in, and then they can do their task based on whatever information the bot has provided. So all the back and boring processing, which either the person had to come and run a report, which would take 3-4 hours. And then they would use that to, let's say, determine how many people I need to put on the ground or whatnot the next day, depending on the number of appointments. So that's where it gives them that additional benefit.
I think we're about to lose Matt at 1 o'clock now to jump on another call, Badri, but very quickly, can you just run over one of the logistics use cases that we've been working on as well?
The logistics one.
Yeah, like when you're, when you're getting requests from you're a third-party supplier delivering stock and supplies as a carrier.
So depending again on that, it's a simple. You've received a request from let's say a company, and you're just, let's say, an aggregator. You get certain shipment notices, and then all you need to do is basically put that in your system so that you could generate, let's say, even a tracking letter, a tracking number, whatnot, putting it in your system. We're currently doing that for another customer. When it comes to logistics, logistics has significant amount of track and trace operations, which again could be done using automation. So again, a lot of manually repetitive tasks which people do, and based on the outcomes they take certain calls. That's where again automation could be really helpful. It could have certain, and I'm just answering Shane's question about data validation, about for the bot to understand the data before submission. So the rule is, if you can put the rule on paper, the bot can do it. So if there is something related to a person or the staff's experience, that's when it could highlight to a person when it's not sure. But if the bot is, if there is a rule saying that the data needs to be in this particular format before I enter it, yes, it can, or even other checks and balances like that. Traditional RPA models. So again, these are again the UiPaths, the Automation Anywheres, Blue Prisms, the leaders in automation. I'm not saying they're not correct, but they have their own place, and they work when you have a massive IT team. They work when you have huge amount of processes and whatnot. So there is that bit of a gap in the overall industry, wherein the licensing models that these leaders have may not work for small to medium customers, because they completely make it, sorry, because they completely make it cost prohibitive to automate any processes. You have to buy the licenses upfront, then you have to put professional services around it, and then you have to maintain it, which means either you need to get a service provider such as ourselves to build and maintain it for you, or you continuously have your team up to date on all that. So one of our customers had an internal program that they were doing, but the person had to leave because again, it was probably being offered a whole lot more in the other business, but then they were pretty much left hanging there. So that's again a benefit of moving to the proposed model.
So yeah, I think what Badri's talking about is, you know, we've worked with a lot of automation vendors in this space, and obviously what most barriers to entry for using robotics has been that you have to invest a lot of money up front in the development. And we've had many customers trying to do it themselves. I know customers of previous customers of mine have had that in, and then there's been staff changes, and that investment's kind of fallen by the wayside because there was no champion or no owner of that particular solution staying within the business. So then it kind of just sits there treading water or gets turned off and everyone forgets about it. So I think it's really important, and what we're really excited about sharing with you guys today is that W3 is really, you know, changing the way you can consume robotics. So we're trying to take away the upfront costs, and we're trying to take away the need for you to reinvest every year in licensing and have to go to market and you know, talk to 10 different vendors around. They all tell you they're the best. You just want a process and you just want it to work, right? So we're really excited that I believe, Rebecca, as well, this is the first in Australia to offer this service. So you guys are getting this hot off the press. And we're really excited about it. So when we're talking about the cost, you know, it just put $1,000 a month in your head, right? So it's $12,000 a year. And when you're talking about a repetitive task of data entry, it will very quickly add up to, you know, a lot more than that for a staff to be actually doing these manual tasks. So we're really excited. It is very affordable. And Paul Badri at Take, he's doing all the heavy lifting behind the scenes to get everyone's process up and running, and you don't actually pay for it until it's working, right? So there's no investment required by you beforehand. You're not putting any skin in the game in terms of licensing or development, or, you know, having multiple people have to do, you know, training and things like that. Literally, it's a couple of workshops with us and Badri to understand the process, to get you to document it, and then Badri will build it. Now, you don't start paying for this service unless it's signed off and approved by you that it is actually working and doing what you need it to do, and then it pushes into production. So I don't know, Beck, if you want to talk through that, or your next slide, but that's really the exciting part of today, is really this is quite, you know, changing the space.
So it's completely risk-free. Sorry,
it certainly is. Sorry, Vajra. I'm just going to say that we are really, really excited about this. We have partnered with the team at Murdoch Webster. It's exciting because, and we believe in it so much that we went and found a model that we could actually bring to the market here in Australia and actually make it really accessible. We have a practice built around automation, so we've done, you know, the big end of town for a long time, but we also saw a big gap in the market, as Badri pointed out earlier. So to make this accessible to, you know, all businesses, big and small, is actually super exciting for us. And we're seeing every day these new processes and these new bots that are coming out that we're developing and putting in place, and clients are so happy about it. So we're super excited about it. We've just launched it. So you guys are probably actually the first to kind of hear about it. So I'm really glad that people have joined, and I'll hand it back to Badri.
Perfect. I think you guys have said it all. So it's the major difference is, imagine you're paying no outcome, no fee, right? The other limitation in the previous model is, if I can just go there, it's a per robot pricing, right? So if, let's say, you have a call center of, let's say, 10 people, and you want to automate a task wherein the person needs to go and run a bot just to identify certain, or do some checks and balances and validate a customer, for example, right? You have to buy 10 licenses for that. Whereas for here, what you would pay for is for the price of the process itself, and you can deploy it in as many number of machines that you wanted to. So that's one of the other game changers that is there.
And that's huge, Badri. That's absolutely massive. That's massive.
Yeah. So it's, again, easiest and the most risk-free way. When you have any kind of short-term processes or whatever you want to run it, you can, and once you don't need it, you can always turn it off. So yeah, there are no strings attached.
Mm. I think you just need to let me know 30 days prior. That's more from a billing perspective.
Yes. So again, when you want to identify a new candidate, always ask what you don't like to do. Find out what's expensive to maintain. Do you have resources challenges in that particular process? Do you have changes in that process a lot? Are there any processes which cause customer dissatisfaction or even employee dissatisfaction? Something which is repeatable and manual, something which is very, very labor intensive. Once you've identified that, just give Leanne a call and we'll book in a workshop. Yeah, we'll take it from there.
I think are we at Q&A time now, Badri? Does anyone have any questions? If you'd like to take yourself off mute.
Can I just make just a one quick point? And this is something I think is really important because I think it's actually something that is gives a huge amount of ROI, and it's something that a lot of clients are actually thinking about. It's legacy systems. Trying to move data around legacy systems, etc., is something that's really powerful. So, Badri, do you want to actually just give a quick snippet around that?
Sorry, which one's it?
Legacy systems, how you can use RPA for legacy systems.
So even mainframe, right? Sorry.
No, I think Badri was looking at Shane calling him a legend. Sorry, Rebecca. Sorry.
Thanks, Shane. So this one, so something that we found with other customers, right, is they have a lot of legacy systems. There's one client of ours who has a mainframe again, and that's where all their operations sits. Currently, what they've done is they've again put in this wrapper, which involves those website services and whatnot. And based on that, RPA is taking the role of entering data in the backend. What it has also done is allowed them not to build any other technology debt, so to speak, in that system, not build new functionalities there, have that intelligence as part of the automation itself, without really changing your process in the backend. So recently there was a use case wherein the customer was deliberating whether to build an API to do a particular transaction or use an RPA. And RPA was, of course, again, using API was at least 30% cheaper than building anything on that mainframe.
Rebecca, do you want to touch on your playbook and the offers that we've got for these guys at the moment?
Yeah, so I actually just put in the chat. So we've put together, developed an RPA playbook. So we're going to make that available to everyone after the session. It just goes through kind of, some more of an overview about RPA, how it works in an environment, all that kind of stuff. So it'll start kind of, I guess, giving you some food for thought about how you could actually apply it in your business. So we'll send that out to you guys after the session. We've also got a one-pager actually on what we call the RPAS offer, which is RPA as a service. So this is what Badri was talking about, which is the month-to-month arrangement, etc., that you can use as a service. One of the most compelling things about this, which is what I love, is what we've been able to offer, is you don't have to actually start paying anything until we get it all up and running in your environment and you can see it working, which I think is a brilliant way of actually proving that we stand behind what we've actually put together and developed, and we're super excited about it.
Thank you guys for your time.
This is all on us.
No pressure, Badri. I think you're going to get inundated after today's session. I just have a feeling we've got a very strong turnout on the call
Bring
today.
it on.
So yeah, if you'd like to get in touch, most of you should all have my email or phone number, but I'll give you all a quick follow-up call tomorrow as well. And yeah, we'd love to have a chat with you about some of your processes. As I said, it's not necessarily an IT thing. So go out and talk to the extended business and your other departments. I think you'll find you'll look like a superhero coming in and saving accounts or reception or what have you, with giving them some time back in their day, taking some of these menial tasks away from them. So we really look forward to talking to you about it. So give us a buzz and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.